So in chapter 9, Murat, the guy who owns the hotel, always at the reception, organizes a game for Abbas to play against this really big fat guy. Murat invited a lot of people to come and bet money. Now, Abbas ends up winning, but is upset with Murat because Murat didn't tell Abbas that the guy he invited was really good. So Murat, who he thought was a really good friend, was taking advantage of Abbas again. Finally, at the evening, Abbas gets a job selling drinks, and all of the people that are staying there give him really good propinas, good tips. Abbas's father calls him, but doesn't let him speak to his mother. So Abbas again, at the end of the day, is upset, tired, and angry at his father. Chapter 10. From the moment I opened my eyes, I knew this day was different from all the ones before it. I did not know why, but the sun was shining. The noises from the streets were far below their usual level, and for the first time I had a smile on my face at the beginning of the day. Until today, I had just been as wary of boredom as anything else. Now I knew that I had things to do, a letter to write, backgammon to play, and tea to serve when I felt like it. As I was getting dressed, I noticed that even the cockroaches did not scare or horrify me anymore. Of course, I knew that there were people who would not hesitate to take advantage of me. Even the person I had thought of as my closest friend and ally had tried to do that, Murat. I knew I was still very vulnerable, but at least I now felt more secure and safe in my surroundings. Before going downstairs, I took stock of how much money I had. I had written down what Murat owed me on a small, page 156, notepad. Most of my money was still unspent, saved, but I did not have that much in lira. I decided to take another trip to the town center and check what rate I could get. I was looking forward to seeing Hector. Remember, Hector was the man that gave him Turkish lira for his dollars in a good amount. He had been good to me, though I had learned from my experience with Murat that I could not always blindly trust those who were nice to me. So I made up my mind to compare rates before going to Hector's shop, just in case. Murat was on duty, half asleep in his usual way behind the reception counter. He handed me paper, pen, and envelope automatically. And despite my happier mood, I began the gloomiest, saddest of my letters since I had left Tehran. Dear Maman, I hope you are well. Days are passing by slowly. I am still waiting for the papers that Baba has sent. I'm fine, but I cannot help feel a little sad because I have not spoken to you in a very long time. Every time I ask Baba, he tells me that I can speak to you the next time. And then it doesn't happen. Do not worry about me. I just would like to speak to you. That's all. I really miss you. Your son, Abbas. When I put the envelope on the counter, Murat reached over to the backgammon board. I put my hand out to say no. A champion needs to practice, Murat said, waking up. Yes, but a champion also needs to have lira. Ah, he said, I can swap money for you. No, I said. I have a contact in town who gives me the best rate. Oh, really? And who is that? Just a friend, I said with a smile. His name is Hector. Ah, Hector, huh? He said with that suspicious smile of his. And what rate did he give you last time? 1,000 for $1. Murat did not respond for a few seconds. After careful deliberation and thinking, he asked, What about the tea? What about it? Well, someone has to serve it. I don't think my customers will be up anytime soon. They went to bed too late. Your customers, are they now, eh? He asked. You know what I mean. Yes, he said, laughing. I'm just teasing and making fun of you. But seriously, what if someone does want tea? Then someone else has to do it, because I will be out until lunchtime, I said, shrugging. Besides, the agreement was that I choose my own hours. I guess we did make that arrangement, Murat said, defeated, only to raise his voice again in excitement as he thought of something new. But we did also say you are working on a trial basis. First you said that, But later you said I have the job for as long as I want. Page 158. I said that? He asked. The problem with you is that that I don't act my age. I know. That too, he said with a chuckle. But I was going to say your memory is very good. That means I have two big problems now. I guess it does, he said, smiling. Now off with you. The sooner you go, the sooner you will return. My good mood changed immediately once I stepped outside. I needed to get out every now and again for my own sanity, not to go crazy. But I didn't feel comfortable alone on those streets. The farther I walked from the hotel, the more crowded the streets became. The main street that led to the market was so busy, I could not see beyond 5 feet. My intention was to go to the market, pass Hector's shop without being detected or seen, and get 3 or 4 different rates from different shops. Then I would return to Hector's and decide what to do. On getting my lira, I would go straight back to the hotel. As always, things did not quite pan or go the way I had envisioned, the way I thought. I managed to find my way through the jostling crowds, and I arrived at the market gates in very little time, with my suspicion that everyone wanted to rob or mug me, probably making me go faster. I stopped at the gates and decided to think about how I was going to pass Hector's shop. The likelihood of my being seen by him was low, but I wanted to make sure. A group of American tourists was gathering next to me, and their guide began to lead them inside. This was perfect camouflage. No one would bother me, as they would think I was with my parents. It worked. I went from jeweler to jeweler. Once again, I was getting the same rate of 980 lira everywhere. Finally, I walked hesitantly towards Hector's shop. He bounced to the door and opened it for me. Abbas, my friend, he said. Welcome back. Thank you. Please, come in, my friend, he said with respect that one pays a king. Pepsi or Fanta? Fanta's a soda. Sorry? What would you like to drink? Pepsi or... Really, Hector? I said. I've just come for... Today's rate, right? He was so enthusiastic and happy that it was almost strange and abnormal. That's right. I'll give you 1,100 lira per dollar, and I'll guarantee I'll take it, I said before he could finish. That was easy, wasn't it? What is it? Are you no longer cautious and careful? It's not that, I said, grinning. I have already checked what everyone else is offering. You're a clever one, he said with a smile. I told you that before. Page 160. I'll exchange $50, please. Sure, he said seriously, but please, have a drink with me first. I looked at my watch and I saw that I had plenty of time to get back for the lunchtime rush at the hotel. I did not want to lose out on my lunch hour tips. Propinas. Okay, I said, I'll have a Fanta, please. Fanta coming up. Hector was about to go and get what I said, when I said, Sorry, Hector. Yes, he turned with a smile. How much will that be? What, the Fanta? He asked in astonishment, in surprise. Yes, I said, feeling embarrassed at having asked. My friend, he proclaimed. You are my guest. It is free, of course. Oh, I sighed, blushing. I see. I'm sorry, Hector. You know, A look of sadness appeared in his deep brown eyes. He stood motionless, looking at me for what seemed like forever, an eternity. I looked down. I'm sorry if I said anything, sir, that... It's not you, my child. There was a pause as he chose his words carefully. This was the first time someone had addressed me like that since my Turkish adventure had begun. I liked Little Man more, but there was an affection and caring in Hector's words. It's so tragic that our world today breeds such cynicism in children. Oh, I said, pretending I understood what he was talking about. I sat on a little stool in the shop, and soon he came back with a Fanta. I took a sip, and looking down, I noticed a hole in the crotch of my trousers in my jeans. I tried to hide the hole, and I was so worried and preoccupied with it that I stopped listening to what Hector was saying. Suddenly, I was in a hurry to leave the shop. I drank in big gulps. Then Hector said something that completely changed the events of that day. "Abbas," he said thoughtfully, "I was going to ask if you wanted a small job once or twice a week, but I don't want to do that anymore." "What job?" I asked. "No, really," he said. "It doesn't matter." Of course, the more he protested, the more curiosity grew. I should have known better. So getting really interested in what Hector wants him to do. "No, tell me, what is it?" "It's nothing," he said. "A simple job." "What?" I demanded. "All you'd have to do," he explained in a casual, informal manner, "is take a parcel, a box, half a mile to another shop, down the same road your bus left from the other day." "What's in the box? What's in the parcel?" I asked. "That I cannot tell you," he said sharply. "You would not be allowed to open the box, the parcel, either." "How much?" $20. "But what's the catch? What's the problem?" Page 162. "There isn't one," he said. "It's just a confidential delivery, that's all." This was way too good to turn down, to say no. "How big is this parcel? Is it heavy?" "God, no," he said with a smile. "Look." He got out a parcel from behind the counter. It was about 12 inches square and 4 inches high, really small box. "I'll do it now." "What, now?" "When better than the present?" I was sure that Murat would have laughed, chuckled at my using his phrase. "Are you sure?" "Yes," I said excitedly. "But I get paid now, right?" "No," he explained. "I'll give you $10 now, and the man you will deliver it to will give you another 10 when he receives the parcel." "Okay." "Good," he said. "Now you take that road where you got on the bus. Walk about 500 yards up that little hill, and along the row of shops on the right-hand side of the road, you'll come to a laundrette." So this is where he is now. He's in the jewelry shop with Hector. "Fine. There you will see a very large man. His name is Adil," he said. "Give the parcel only to him. One more thing." "What?" I asked. "If you think anyone is watching you or following you, do not under any circumstance go to the laundrette. Do you understand?" A laundrette is this. "Yes," I said, but now I was a little frightened. Why would anyone do that? "I'm just warning you." "Oh," I said, pretending to understand even though it did not make any sense. I didn't mention it again because $20 was a lot of money to me. "So if anyone does follow me, do I bring the parcel back here?" "No!" he said, almost having a heart attack. He then returned to the counter and got a little card out. "Take this card," he ordered. "And if that does happen, go to your hotel and ring me on this number." "Okay. I will tell you what to do and give you the rest of your money then." "That sounds fair. So do I have to report back here if it is delivered?" "No," he said calmly. "Just go home." "But how will you know that I delivered the parcel?" "That is a good question, Abbas," he said with a smile. "Your proof is the $10 bill that he will give to you." "But that could be any $10 bill," I said. I was not that stupid. What if I want to spend it? "The bill will have something written on it in pencil in a corner," he explained. "You can spend my bill, and then next week if we repeat this, I'll give you another bill in exchange for the penciled one, plus the 10 for next week's delivery." Page 164. "So I only get half of my money this week?" "No, you get all of it," he said. "But if you want your proof, you can't spend half for 1 week. That's all." "Okay," I said as I thought about what he had said. "So can I have my $10? "Sure," he replied. And with that, he pulled out the biggest bundle of dollars I had ever seen. He had every denomination possible, 5s, 10s, $100. He must have had at least $5,000 or $10,000. I was impressed. I took my money and the parcel and made my way through the bustling crowds. I knew that it must be valuable, otherwise he would not be paying me so much. I knew too, deep down, that what I was doing was wrong. But the temptation of the money was too much. I needed money. I did not know how long I would have to stay in Istanbul and support myself with money. What I knew for sure was that, of all my jobs, this one was the one that my father should have never found out about. My other two jobs were good, but they did not pay anywhere as good or close to this one. This was easy money, but my mother's old proverb phrase rang inside my head. Easy money was the devil's money. As I walked up the small hill, I kept turning around in case anyone was following me. I was walking very fast, my heart was racing, and I was sweating heavily. All of a sudden, it did not seem such a good idea to be doing this, but it was too late now. Before long, I noticed a dingy, dark little laundrette where people do their laundry. I looked back one final time and then crossed the road, so I was directly opposite the laundrette. I walked 20 yards further, crossed the road again and went back. I looked through the window, but it was so dark that I could not see the far side of the shop. I pushed the door slightly and immediately jumped as a bell jangled, a bell ring. Ring, ring. I could not imagine anyone using this laundrette to wash clothes. Molde, covered the walls and it smelled bad of cigarette smoke. The floor was sticky and as I walked across, it squelched. My heart was beating even faster now. As I walked through the thick smoke, I saw someone who fitted the description of Adil. He must have weighed more than 300 pounds, over 150 kilograms. He was back behind a counter, lying in a plump leather chair that had its stuffing burst out of several holes. He had a badly misshapen nose, undoubtedly broken several times. His old-fashioned moustache, bigote, curled at the ends, and he had heavy stubble and shaggy sideburns in need of a trim. He was dripping in sweat, despite a little fan in front of him. I could see his rolls of fat and flab popping out of his tight yellow cotton shirt. I was terrified as he stared at me. "Excuse me, sir?" I asked. I inquired in Farsi in my faintest and politest of voices. "Are you Adil?" "Uh-huh," he grunted. "I have this for you." I offered the box, the parcel. He took it very gently from my hands, and then with great effort he stood up from the seat. Big drops of sweat snaked down his face as he glared and stared at me, and then he looked at the parcel. Wait, page 166. He disappeared through the back door. Then came back and leaned forward over the counter. My heart stopped. I thought he was going to hurt me. Instead, he opened his hand and offered me a $10 bill. I took it from him, and sure enough, there was a 5-digit number written in one corner. Adil was staring at me, but I seemed to be paralyzed. I just stood there. "What else do you want? A kiss?" His voice echoed in the dank, moldy space. "Oh, sorry," I stuttered. I mean, thank you. Thank you, sir." I backed out the door, keeping Adil in sight, and as soon as I was out of his range of vision, that he couldn't see me, I began to run. I had my $20, and it had been worth it. After all, it had only been 45 minutes of work. That was more than my father would earn in that amount of time. I started to make my way back to the hotel as quickly as I could, since I was already late for lunchtime and my tips. I was gloating. Suddenly, a heavy blow smacked across my chest. I was knocked to the ground. A man had been walking fast in my direction, and because I was looking at the floor, my head was lowered. I had not gotten out of his way. The man was furious and angry, towering over me and shouting in Turkish. I tried to apologize. "I'm sorry, sir," I said. As soon as he heard me speaking Farsi, he became even angrier. He leaned over me and pulled me up by one of my ears. He said something about Iranians, but I could not understand it. I guess it was not very nice or pleasant. Then, out of nowhere, he slapped me right across the face. Hate welled up inside me as never before. Then he spat on my head and walked away. People, passers-by, had stopped to watch, and yet no one had bothered to help me. As soon as I got up and away, I checked my pockets for my money. It was all there. Then I felt the man's spit and saliva begin to drip down my forehead. I pulled the end of my sleeves over my hand and wiped my face. As I turned off the main road onto the street for the hotel, my face was stinging, it hurt. But something inside me hurt more. Humiliation and the pain of feeling like an outsider, someone who doesn't belong. Trying to work out these things by myself was confusing. But who could I confide in? Who could I trust? I knew I couldn't tell my parents. Their feelings of guilt would only be multiplied. It was past 1 PM when I finally stepped back into the hotel. I was trying to focus on the next task at hand. Murat was in his seat, waiting like a parent whose child had missed curfew and come in late. "What time do you call this?" "I told you earlier," I snapped. "The agreement was that I choose my own hours. Besides, I said I would be back by lunchtime, and it is lunchtime." "Hey," he said, taken back by my abruptness. "I was only joking, Abbas." Page 168. "Sorry," I said softly. "I'll need 10 minutes before I can start." Murat stared at me. "Sure, take your time," he said, walking towards me. He reached out to touch my face gently. I wanted to flinch, but I stood my ground. He tilted and moved my head to one side. "What happened to your face?" "What do you mean?" I asked, pretending innocence. "It's completely red on one side," he said. "What happened?" "Nothing," I responded with my head down. "Did someone hit you?" "No." "Then what happened?" he demanded. "Was it when you were swapping money?" "No, I got my money," I said. "I got 1,100 lira per dollar." But I wasn't gloating and impressed anymore. I was desperately trying to think of something I could say to avoid further questions, interrogation. I could not possibly allow Murat to know that I had been hit, that I was vulnerable. The image I had always given him had been one of a smart boy who knew exactly what he was doing. "Okay," he said, "but I know that something did happen." I walked quickly out of the reception, the lobby, and up the stairs. All I wanted to do was get into the shower. I washed my hair 5 times with shampoo. I wanted to remove all traces, everything on me from that man. Remember, he spat on him. A knock at my door made me jump. I ignored it. After a few seconds, there was another tap. I heard Murat. "Little man," he called. "Little man, are you there?" Yeah, I responded. "Hold on." I finished dressing quickly and then opened the door, a chink, a tiny bit. Murat was there with a bag of ice, which he handed to me. "Keep that on your face for 20 minutes or so. It will reduce the swelling, the redness." "Thank you." "Little man," he said thoughtfully, "you don't have to tell me what happened, but if you do want to, well, I am here." "Thank you." "Make sure you keep it on for at least 20 minutes and then come downstairs. There are a lot of thirsty Iranians waiting for you." "Okay," I said with a small smile. I could not figure out Murat. I still did not know whether to trust him. He would make incredibly kind gestures and things, and then try to pull a trick on me. Perhaps he was nice to me only because he was looking after his money, his investment. When I returned downstairs, I immediately went to work. I smiled when I had to, and it appeared that my fame had spread across the hotel. Everyone knew about Abbas. Everyone knew who I was. I learned to remember little details about each of the guests, because they liked me all the more for it. I always asked them how their business was going, and they would tell me about their children. Page 170. And I would write down the names of their kids on the tab list so that I would remember. Should I serve them again? Murat loved the idea and began to use it himself. However, throughout the whole day, I hoped that my parents would not call. I was sure I'd break down and cry on the phone, and that would be the end of that. I did not eat. I drank lots of tea, played a game of backgammon, and served drinks until 2 in the morning. My parents did not call, and I was happy as I was sad about that. After the bar closed that night, I went to my usual seat in the back row of the lounge and stared at the television until I fell asleep. I did not want to go to bed, even though I was exhausted and tired. I woke up around 3 and finally decided that I should go upstairs. When I climbed into bed, I prayed to God that when I woke, I would not remember what happened to me that day. So a bit of a difficult chapter for poor Abbas. He went to go change money. His friend gave him a job, and the job Hector gave him was taking a parcel to someone else. He did it. He got paid. He walked into someone because he wasn't paying attention, and the man treated him terribly, spat on him, slapped him, and then he went back and continued his usual routine. That is the end.